The ISS Dauntless drifted through the cold silence between stars, a silver arrow among the endless black. Its engines whispered with low vibration, like a heartbeat under layers of steel. Inside, everything was calm but tense. Every crew member knew they were about to make history, or end it. Captain Elias Ward stood near the large observation window on the bridge. The stars outside shimmered like frost scattered across the night. His reflection looked back at him, tired eyes, streaks of gray in his hair, the quiet strength of a man who had seen too many missions go wrong. He had commanded ships before, but never one carrying the hope of an entire planet. They were the first humans to travel beyond the outer colonies. Their mission was to meet the Alari, a species that had watched humanity from afar for decades but never spoken to them directly. The Alari were rumored to be so advanced that they no longer needed machines. Their thoughts shaped reality itself. Most people back on Earth didn't believe such beings would even bother talking to humans, and yet, here they were. "Captain, we're entering a Phyra orbit," said Lieutenant Mara Chen, her voice steady but her hands shaking slightly on the control panel. "Their beacon is active." "We're being scanned." Elias gave a small nod. "Maintain course. No sudden moves." "Yes, sir," he could feel it. The scan. It wasn't like a normal sensor pulse. It felt like something brushing against his mind, soft and curious, like fingertips tracing thoughts instead of metal. He tried to stay calm, reminding himself this was first contact. There was no hostility, just observation. A low hum filled the room as a beam of pale light appeared outside the ship. The light twisted and folded, taking the shape of a long, floating corridor made entirely of shimmering blue energy. It connected the Dauntless to a vast object in the distance, a structure that looked alive, pulsing with slow waves of color. It wasn't a building. It was like a living creature sleeping and breathing in the vacuum of space. "That's their embassy," Mara whispered. "It's beautiful." Elias couldn't disagree. It looked like a jellyfish made of stars. "Prepare the shuttle," he said quietly. "We'll meet them face to face." The shuttle ride felt shorter than it should have, maybe because everyone aboard was too nervous to talk. Elias sat in silence, watching the corridor of light around them. It bent and shimmered as if reality itself was liquid. "Captain," said Dr. Tarek, the ship's science officer, "you realize what this means. They've mastered matter-energy manipulation. This is rewriting physics." Elias gave him a small, tired smile. "Let's hope they're friendly physicists." The shuttle entered the Alari structure through an opening that looked like a rippling pond. No gravity, no airlock, just a soft transition from ship to unknown. When the doors opened, the human team stepped out into an enormous chamber. The room was unlike anything built by human hands. It was vast, glowing softly with blue and violet light. Shapes shifted along the walls like living glass, and the air hummed with quiet energy. There were no visible machines, just smooth surfaces and slow waves of color moving like breath. Then the Alari appeared. They didn't walk. They simply arrived, as if the space around them folded to make room. There were 6 of them, tall and graceful, with bodies that looked half light, half solid. Their faces were smooth and radiant, their skin like pearl dust. Their eyes, if they could be called eyes, were pools of ever-changing color. One of them stepped forward. Her light was softer, golden white with streaks of violet that shimmered when she moved. She tilted her head slightly as she studied Elias. Her gaze met his, and in that instant, the world stopped. Elias forgot how to breathe. It wasn't fear. It wasn't even wonder. It was something deeper, a shock that came from being seen. Her eyes weren't just looking at him. They were looking through him. Memories rose without permission. His mother's voice, the loss of his wife, the loneliness of command, the small joys that had kept him going. Every part of him, every secret, was open under that gaze. His lungs tightened. His heart stumbled. For a moment he was sure he was dying. Then she blinked and the feeling faded. "I am Sarilith," she said, her voice soft and clear. It wasn't sound, it was like music inside his thoughts. "You are the human called Elias Ward?" "Yes," he managed to say. "Captain of the Dauntless. We come in peace." The other Alari watched silently, their eyes dimmer, their forms less distinct. They seemed to defer to her. Sarilith stepped closer. "We know. We have studied your world. Your wars, your art, your dreams. We did not think you would come this far." Elias swallowed, trying to stay steady. "Humanity is curious. We keep going even when we shouldn't." Her expression changed slightly. A tilt of the head, a flicker of color across her skin. "You keep going even when it hurts. It wasn't a question." "Yes," he said quietly. "That's what makes us human." For a moment, silence filled the chamber. The lights on the walls shifted from blue to soft gold as if the room itself was listening. Finally, Sarilith turned to the others. "We will consider their presence. The council must decide." The other Alari moved away and vanished into the walls like mist. Sarilith looked back at Elias once more. There was curiosity in her gaze and something else. Something almost like warmth. "You feel pain as if it is life itself," she said. "I do not understand it. I wish to." Before he could answer, her form shimmered and faded. She was gone. Back on the Dauntless, the crew was silent. The first meeting had lasted less than 15 minutes, but it had changed everything. No one spoke as they removed their helmets. The air inside the ship felt heavier somehow, filled with the weight of what they'd just seen. Lieutenant Mara finally broke the silence. "Captain." "What just happened?" Elias sat down slowly, hands trembling slightly. "They're more than we imagined. More than we can understand." "And her?" Mara asked softly. "That one who spoke to you?" He hesitated. "She's different. I think she saw something in us the others didn't." Dr. Tarek nodded. "Their kind might not feel emotion anymore. Maybe she's curious about us because we do." Elias looked out the window at the glowing shape of the Ilari structure. Its colors pulsed in a slow rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. "If they don't feel," he said quietly, "then what I saw in her eyes shouldn't be possible." Mara frowned. "What did you see?" He didn't answer. How could he explain it? That single moment when time stopped. When he'd felt like the universe itself was breathing through him. It sounded insane even to him. He stood up and straightened his uniform. "We wait for their call," he said firmly. "Until then, no one acts without my order." But when he was alone in his quarters later, staring out into the stars, he couldn't stop thinking about her. The way her light had flickered like emotion trying to be born. For the first time in his career, Elias Ward wasn't thinking about duty or survival. He was thinking about her eyes, the way they had seen him, the way. For one heartbeat of time, he had felt more alive than ever before. And far out in the Ilari structure, Sarilith stood alone in silence. Around her, the walls pulsed softly with light. She touched her chest, a gesture she had seen humans use to describe feeling. Something unfamiliar stirred inside her, faint as the echo of a dream. She whispered not in words but in thought, to the stars beyond. "What are you, human?" The Dauntless drifted quietly in Afira's orbit. Inside, the crew went about their routines, though their minds were far from routine. The first contact had left a mark on every human aboard. The kind of mark that could not be measured in reports or charts. Captain Elias Ward stood once more at the observation window, staring at the pulsing glow of the Ilari structure. Its colors shifted constantly, blues becoming gold, violets blending into white. To human eyes it looked alive, and maybe it was, Captain, said Lieutenant Mara Chen, breaking the silence. "The council hasn't replied yet. It could be hours. Or days," Elias nodded. "We wait, carefully." He didn't mention the one thought that stayed with him despite all protocols. Sarilith. Her eyes, that fleeting, impossible connection. Inside the Alari structure, Sarilith was under scrutiny. The council, beings of endless light and thought, regarded her with concern. "You allowed them to witness more than necessary," said one, its voice like a ripple through water. "Their species is unstable. You risk contamination." Sarilith's form shimmered softly. "I did not risk them," she replied. "I risked myself. I saw something in them and in him that cannot be ignored." A low vibration filled the chamber. The oldest of the Alari, a being named Valtheris, spoke. "Curiosity is dangerous. Humans are chaos. One misstep could destroy our perception of order. Why do you intervene?" Sarilith's colors shifted, a pattern that could be interpreted as agitation. "Because I must understand. What is life without curiosity? What is eternity without the pulse of feeling?" The council fell silent. No Alari had questioned the logic of detachment for millennia. But something about the human captain lingered in Sarilith's mind. That spark of courage, that stubborn insistence to live fully despite inevitable suffering. Back on the Dauntless, a message arrived. Not a formal report, just an invitation. A single line of thought transmitted directly into Elias's mind. Come alone. I will show you. Elias froze. The message was Serelith's. No human technology could have sent it. His crew watched, silent and worried. Captain? Mara's voice was cautious. He shook his head. I have to see this alone. He entered the shuttle, leaving the crew behind. As he descended into the alienromance structure, the walls pulsed more rapidly. Colors danced around him in ways that felt almost alive, almost breathing. Then she appeared. Serelith's light flickered in greeting. You came, she said. Not with words exactly, but with thoughts, soft, warm, and entirely human in sensation. Yes, Elias said, trying to steady his voice. I had to. She studied him carefully. Do you understand the danger of being here alone? Yes, he said. I understand more than danger. I understand what it is to risk everything for understanding. She tilted her head. A ripple of color flowed across her form. Humans speak of courage, yet your species is fragile. You fight not because you must, but because you choose to. Elias swallowed. Because choice is everything. For hours they explored the structure together. Serelith showed him rooms that twisted gravity, halls that reflected thoughts as light, spaces where sound was thought, and thought became movement. Elias was awed, but he also noticed something strange. Serelith's light fluctuated with intensity, almost like a heartbeat. Why do you fluctuate? He asked. Do you feel emotion? Serelith paused. I do not, and yet, when I am near you, I feel a shadow of something, a warmth, a pulse I cannot explain. Elias smiled, but it was faint. That's called being human. Feeling things you can't fully control. She considered this. Humans are chaotic, beautiful, terrible, unpredictable, and yet, somehow I wish to understand it fully. That was when the council intervened. A wave of presence swept through the structure. The chamber walls shimmered and contracted. Serelith, a stern voice commanded. You exceed your mandate. Remove the humans. Erase all contact if necessary. You risk exposure. Elias stepped forward. Exposure? You mean danger? We don't want to harm you. The council's thoughts were sharp, cold. Humans are volatile. Their emotions are dangerous. You cannot trust them. Serelith's colors brightened almost defiantly. I choose to trust him, to learn, to see what he sees. One of the council's oldest forms flickered with irritation. You risk eternity for a moment of curiosity. Are you blind? Serelith faced them. Perhaps, but you are blind to what makes life matter. Perhaps you cannot feel, but I can observe. I can choose. Elias could see the tension in her light, the kind of uncertainty that humans called fear. But it was mixed with courage, the courage to defy authority for something she believed in. Over the next cycles, Serelith and Elias spoke at length. She asked questions about life, about pain, about love. He spoke about Earth, about human resilience, about the joys and sorrows that shaped their history. She listened, fascinated. For the first time in her existence, Serelith encountered something she could not calculate, cannot simulate, cannot control. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were alive in ways she had never imagined. You fight because life is short, she said finally, and you cherish it more because it is fleeting. Yes, Elias replied. You could live forever. We do not. That is why we matter. Her light flickered. I do not understand fleetingness, but I understand importance. Then came the moment of real danger. A ripple of energy surged through the structure. The council had begun their intervention. Walls that had seemed flexible hardened. Corridors folded in ways that threatened to trap the humans. Captain, we need to leave. Mara's voice echoed in his communicator. Elias turned to Serelith. We can't leave without you. I cannot defy the council openly, she said. But I can create a path. Follow me. Her light blazed brighter than ever. The walls twisted, folding space around them like water, opening a clear path toward the shuttle. Elias could feel her energy, not dangerous but overwhelming, like a river of thought surrounding him. They reached the shuttle just in time. Behind them, the corridors of the alienromance structure rippled and shifted, erasing any trace that humans had been inside. The council's presence remained sharp and angry. But Serelith's light lingered, soft and warm. Once aboard the Dauntless, Elias turned to her through the view screen. You could stay. You could be part of this. Her form shimmered, but a shadow of sadness passed over her light. I cannot. I am bound to eternity. You are bound to life, but You have taught me something, and for that I will always remember. Elias felt a weight lift even as his chest tightened. He understood. She had changed something in him, and he had changed something in her. The Dauntless disengaged from Ephora's orbit, leaving the glowing structure behind. Elias looked out at the stars, thinking of her fractal eyes, the way they had seen through him, the way she had chosen courage over control. He realized that humans were fragile. Yes, but in that fragility was strength. In that choice to live fully, even briefly, lay power beyond calculation, beyond prediction. And somewhere out there, Sarilith thought of him too, her light pulsing softly as she watched humanity recede into the distance. For the first time, an Aelari had glimpsed what it meant to be alive, and it terrified and fascinated her in equal measure.